There was no radio communication at all at that time. I tried, he didn't respond. I made contact with Mr. Johnson at the driver's window so that he wasn't wondering what was going on. I advised Mr. Johnson that as soon as Officer Elliman responded on the radio and told me what exactly he needed him for, I would let him know that.
When you had contact with the defendant, Mr. Johnson, what happened? What was your observation?
I could detect an odor of alcohol coming from what I believe to be Mr. Johnson and the vehicle as well, the interior of the vehicle. When I asked Mr. Johnson about the odor I was detecting, he stated that he hadn't been drinking. I asked him if then it could be perfume or something. And he said, yeah, that's probably what it is. I knew that it wasn't perfume. I just was giving him an out to see what his response would be at the time.
Any other observations about his person?
He had glossy eyes. If I could refer to my report, I can give you a description as to my observations at the window if you want.
Well, you have glossy eyes and then odor of alcohol. What did you do once you had that information?
I asked Mr. Johnson to exit his vehicle, to come to the rear. His vehicle is lifted, or was lifted at the time. It was hard for me to hear him, and I didn't know if it was as hard for him to hear me, so I asked him to step to the back of the vehicle, and we were going to do some field sobriety tests once I got to that point.
Okay. There's another occupant in the vehicle, I understand. Let me just ask, how many were in the vehicle?
There was a total of 4 people in the vehicle, 2 female, 2 male.
Okay. We have another defendant, Ashley Carl. Did you see her in the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. You have any interaction with her?
I did later in the stop.
Tell me about that.
Once Mr. Johnson was placed under arrest for DUI by Officer Murray, who in fact was the one to do the FSTs and make that arrest, I was asked to see if they needed a ride or needed a phone to get a ride, as well as to start an inventory of the vehicle because it was going to be state impounded due to the DUI. I asked the occupants if they needed a phone or if they had one. We got that worked out. They started to exit the vehicle after I asked them to, so I could start the inventory. As they passed, I could detect the odor of alcohol on each individual person as well. Come to find out, Miss Carl and one other individual were underage, under 21, and subsequently cited after being tested, both with nystagmus and with a portable breath test, as well as their own admission for the consumption of alcohol. They were issued a citation for MIP alcohol.
I'm sorry, let me just draw your attention back to Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
When he was in the vehicle, did you say you asked him to step out of the vehicle?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
And what were you doing? Why'd you ask him to step out?
To bring him to the rear of the vehicle. For one, the FSTs, and the other is, I don't know that either one of us could really hear very well.
Okay. As he stood out of the vehicle, what, if anything, did you observe?
Mr. Johnson, when he exited the vehicle, leaned into the driver's side door. Also made a wide, almost took a real wide angle to the back of the vehicle, walked out into the travel lane. More or less, it seemed because of a staggered gait. He came to the rear where I asked him to. I had to motion him where I wanted him to come and stand, which was out of the travel lane and off to the side for his safety as well as ours, so that those tests could be performed.
If I understand you, he swings wide, and you motion him in?
I tell him he needs to come over in front of the patrol car instead of out in the middle of the road.
Okay. You said that FSTs were performed on Mr. Johnson. Did you do those?
I did not.
Briefly, Judge. Officer, did you videotape this case?
There was a videotape. I did not bring it with me. I apologize.
Did you review that video?
I have reviewed that video.
And have you seen Mr. Johnson where he leans on that truck?
Yeah. We.
You see that in
fact, I believe we reviewed it together, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When you pull up to the intersection, do you see any of this going on, this kid that's outside of a car?
No, that was on Main Street. I didn't come in contact with Mr. Johnson until just west of 4th East, just past the intersection. As they're coming eastbound, Officer Murray is behind him. I can see his lights on, see Mr. Johnson's truck continuing eastbound. I angled my car, canted it, whatever you want to call it, at approximately 45 degree, hit my siren as he went past me to try and get his attention that there's a vehicle behind him trying to stop him, as well as my presence.
Okay. So Murray's lights were on, trying
They
to
were
pull him
on, yes.
over? And he continues on, and I guess he can't see the lights?
The lights are
Lights are
visible, he just wasn't stopping for them. They're not as visible as an overhead light,
But
but
when he saw your lights, he did pull over, right?
he did pull over.
He asked you, where should I pull over?
Where should I pull over?
Is that because you were going through an intersection?
He had come to a stop sign at 4th East and 1800 North. It's a four-way.
Okay, and so he's wondering, do you want me to continue on or stop right here?
Where do you want, yep.
So you didn't hear him rev his engine or anything like that, is that true?
Yeah, no.
Okay. And you weren't notified of the reason, at least at that point, of why Nick was even being pulled over, is that true?
Right, it was happening real quick.
Okay. And you questioned him a little bit, and he told you that another person out of another car got out and mooned him, right?
Once I informed him of what Officer Elliman had come back when he finally got back on the radio and answered my question, was that there was a mooning incident down there on Main Street, and Mr. Johnson stated that he knew the individuals, but nobody in his vehicle had been a part of the actual mooning. Like I said, I wasn't there on that incident, so I was going off of what I was...
Mr. Johnson was pretty cooperative with you when you got him out of the truck, correct?
Yeah.
Answered all your questions?
Yes.
Okay. You could understand him just fine, right?
As far as just communication, yes, I could understand it.
Okay. Other questions?
I think you're...
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'd like to call Officer Murray to the stand. Officer Murray, will you state your name for the record, please?
Scott Murray,
Who do you work for, Officer Murray?
Logan Police.
Did you encounter Nick Johnson and Ashley Carl?
Yes, I did.
Tell me what it is that caused you to encounter them.
On the date in question, I was working an alcohol enforcement shift and had just cleared an incident with Officer Elliman in Logan city limits. He was heading to his home and indicated he needed assistance at 1800 North Main on two vehicles that he was dealing with on an incident. I was still very close to the area, responded to assist him to 1800 North Main.
So the call went out just for assistance? Was there a specific direction on what you were supposed to do?
As I got to the intersection, I noticed Officer Elliman's vehicle in the intersection or somewhere near the intersection. He was dealing with a red vehicle. He asked me over the radio to initiate a traffic stop on a black truck, which there was a black truck directly in front of me traveling eastbound on 1800 North.
You proceeded to do that then, I take it?
Yes, I did.
You stopped the black truck. What did you observe? What occurred?
I actually did not stop the black truck. I activated my equipment lights in my unmarked vehicle, which I was driving. At the time, there was a North Park unit, Officer Black, coming to our location where he was in a marked vehicle. I backed off, if you will, and asked him to initiate the stop, which was about 400 East, 1800 North.
Vehicle's then stopped by Officer Black, and then you go up to stop the vehicle?
We both proceed to the stop vehicle, Officer Black to the driver. I go to the passenger side.
At some point, you have any conversation or any interaction with Mr. Johnson?
I did.
How does that happen?
Officer Black was conversing with the driver at the driver's window. I had then knocked on the passenger window to have the occupant roll that window down, and I could overhear part of his conversation with the driver. He had asked him if there had been any alcohol consumed.